All right, welcome. Today we are going over the IGCSE 0510 ESL exam for O-level students. Again, this is a Cambridge exam. And one thing that we noticed in the 2020 writing exam, they changed exercise 2. So today's class, we're going to introduce exercise 2. It's actually the same formats as the CS exam that you took back in 8th grade. But we want to just refresh ourselves and be ready. Your question paper and mark exam for 2020 is posted on B12 for you to take a look at, and you can refresh yourself with this exam. But let's go ahead and start. Okay, I have my screen shared. So let's go to the top to be clear. This is 0510 exam 21, which is the extended version of reading and writing paper 2, English as a second language, May, June 2020. So that was spring 2020. This exam should go for 2 hours. The first exercise is like you're used to. It's comprehension, reading, answering questions, and same with exercise 2. Okay, let's go ahead and skip forward to exercise 3. You'll see another reading example, and then you make your notes. Exercise 4 is the summary section that we went over. And likewise, exercise 5, you need to write an email. Sometimes it's a letter to a friend. Of course, nowadays, usually the prompts say email. Exercise 6, it discusses writing a report or an article. Usually there's 2 different perspectives that help you to start writing. Okay, and that's the end of the exam. So the only thing that's changed is the form filling section. And I think that's to your benefit, because in the past, exercise 2 was filling out a technical form, like an address. Remember, sometimes you have to circle something or delete an option. And sometimes the way that they worded it was ambiguous or confusing. This one is much more straightforward. Exercise 2 has been replaced with these small articles about someone. So basically, it starts with your favorite activity. There's a topic up here. Okay, this topic is a favorite activity. And then you have 4 characters. So character A is Tanya. Character B is Patricia. Character C is Danny. And character D is Eleanor. And so basically your job is to read through each of these descriptions of who they are. Who is Tanya? What do we learn about Tanya and her favorite activity? Then we read through Patricia. What do we learn about Patricia's favorite activity? The same with Danny and the same with Eleanor. Then we need to answer all of these questions. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. A total of 10 points, 10 questions. That means each question is worth 1 point. And there's no ambiguity in this exam. It says for each question, write the correct letter A, B, C, or D on the line in tandem with the person. So for example, letter A, it says, gives a reason for not participating in competitions. Your job is to find out who fits that description. Who does that correlate or connect with? And then you're going to take that letter, methylene, if methylene, for example, it was Tanya, and you would simply write the letter A. So again, this exercise 2, this version of exercise 2 that's been updated in spring 2020 is, I think, easier for you because there's less ambiguity. If this description perfectly fits that character, you know that's the right answer. Khalas, you write the right answer here. So that's the gist of this section. Now, the way that I would attack this section, the way that I would prepare this section, is to, when I get to exercise 2, I would read through quickly each description. This is my personal take. I would read about Tanya, pause and think of kind of the summary. Who is Tanya? Get a feeling for who she is. Then I would read about Patricia, get a feeling, kind of pause and think in my mind. I want a feeling of what she like. Same with Danny, and then same with Eleanor. So I have a first impression of each character and their favorite activity, which is the topic that IGCSE chose. Then I would read through and start going through these lists. Now, some people want to start with this list of descriptions, so they put this in their mind first, and then they come back to A, B, C, and D, Tanya, Patricia, Danny, and Eleanor. So you will have to decide what works best for your personality. For Mr. Stevens' personality, I want to read and get an impression of each person first. And then I want to start answering the questions. So, of course, when you read these questions, when you have these descriptions and you're trying to correlate which character goes with this description, sometimes you're going to be uncertain. Wait, is it Tanya, Patricia? Maybe there's two characters that you remember. Oh, maybe this applies to two characters, not just one. So you want to find the exact IGCSE answer. Remember, there will always be a detail to make your answer exact. So always choose the best answer. You might think in your mind that there are two answers, but according to IGCSE, there is a best answer, and your job is to find that and give that as your answer. So again, to repeat, the way that I would take this exam, I would start by reading through each character, pausing after reading about Tanya, kind of getting an impression in my heart and my mind, who is Tanya, what did I learn about her? Then I would move on to the next character, and the next. Then I would start answering the questions one by one. And when I say it gives a reason for not participating in competitions, I might read through all four of them again by skimming and scanning. So of course you're gonna have to read these descriptions more than once, because when you go through the answers down here, when you're trying to answer, gives a reason for not participating in competitions, Methylen, you're going to want to make sure you have the right answer. And so you're gonna go back and refer to that character, maybe even skimming and scanning through all four of them. Now, when I took this exam at home, I started answering the questions, and it was very easy for me. I think that this one's easier than the old version. But one thing I found out is I end up skimming and scanning through each character over and over. Like maybe 4 times I read through, maybe even 5 times through some of these descriptions. But the first time I read like normal, the second time I'm skimming and I'm scanning. I'm skimming and I'm scanning. I'm reading quickly, looking for keywords. Sometimes, if I were you, I might take my pen or pencil and I would underline key sections. You will have to decide your own balance, what works best for your personality in order to answer these questions in an efficient way. In a way that doesn't take too much time, because you don't want to spend forever. So go ahead and practice. If you're watching the video, what I want you to do is give it a shot. I want you to take the exam by yourself, and then you can come back to check how we process through it together. I'm grateful to have my 11th grade student, Kusai Smadi, with me. So we will process through this together on the next video. All right, go ahead and pause the video or stop the video and take the exam, and then we'll go through the answers together in the next video. Thank you. Okay, welcome students, welcome back. Now that you've given exercise 2 a shot, I'm gonna work with Kusai Smadi, and we're gonna process in his method, which is actually, if you wanna go ahead and share with us, go ahead, Kusai.
Yeah, so the way I would approach this is by first reading the first person, which is, in this case, it's Tanya, and I'd start reading all about her, and then I'd go forward to the questions and start reading all of them and see which best fits this specific character. And then I would, if all the options, if all the options, so if I fill in all the options and everything else doesn't fit her, I would start reading about Patricia and then go back to the questions and see which specific ones fit her, and so on. I do this until I'm done. And
Okay.
then I'd make sure that I didn't make any mistakes by reading the whole thing one final time, and then checking with each character and checking why was the reason I picked this specific question for that specific character.
Very good. So that's another methodology. Let's go ahead and start. Kusai, go ahead and read about Tanya.
Okay, sure. I enjoy different sports, but skateboarding is my absolute favorite. To me, it's my sport, my hobby, and even my daily mood of transport. I don't even own a bicycle anymore. Skateboarding has shaped me into the person I am today. It's taught me to always get up after I fall, to never give up, to stick with something until I get it right, and to be proud what I have achieved. When I was little, I used to go to the skate park near my home and practice simple things like turns and small jumps. I was this little kid skating around and accidentally getting in the way of all the bigger kids. But they never yelled at me to get out of the way or said anything rude to me at all. In fact, some of these kids even gave me tips and showed me how to do certain tricks.
Excellent. So that's Tanya. It'll be easy for you when you're reading on your own, because when you're reading out loud, sometimes your mind is focused on pronunciation. So the way that your mind works while reading out loud is slightly different than the way that your mind works when you're reading independently. But we're ready to go. So let's take a look. So the first one, it says, gives a reason for not participating in competitions. What
So
do you,
no, I don't. Yeah, I don't think so. She didn't even mention any kind of competition. So we'll have to.
letter B explains that people can combine skills from another sports in the activity.
No, not really. She said that older kids taught her how to do some skills, but it's from the same sport. It's from skateboarding. It's not.
She describes how she got advice from other people.
Yes, yes. This would probably definitely be one. So we'll probably not put the letter A now, but like put the letter A on hold now next to that sentence. And
Okay.
then after we finish, we'll make sure we'll decide if this is the most fitting one for her.
Okay, so I'll put that in blue. So you actually put it next to like you go like this, A.
Yeah, or probably next to this sentence.
Okay, I don't know why it's so big. I want it to be small, like this. Okay, A. All right. D.
Explains that she wasn't put off doing an activity by someone else's bad experience. No, she definitely didn't say that. In fact, she said the opposite of that, which is, she indicated that the older kids never told her to get out of the way. They were never rude.
Okay,
That's what she
excellent thought process. Try and keep it just to a simple yes or no. The students will also process through this on their own. So letter E mentions positive characteristics she developed through her interests.
when she develops through her interest. Yeah, so she at the first of the paragraph that introduces about her, she says that it's my absolute favorite to me. Like it's the sport, my hobby, and even my daily mode of transport. So yeah, yeah, I'd say that too.
We can suggest that. We'll double check. Letter F explains what she learned from watching other people. I don't remember that for her.
Well, yeah, she did it. She said she got advice, not watching, not observing.
She mentions having a lack of confidence before competition. No, she didn't do that. Letter H explains that the activity has a practical use in everyday life. She did mention something about how this is good for life in general. So let's go ahead and put it in there.
Yeah, and yeah.
Sorry, my handwriting on computers is much less on the board. Letter I, she says how people have to prepare well to avoid accidents. She didn't go into detail about.
No, yeah, she didn't say it.
And J mentions that sharing a difficult experience was helpful. Question mark. No, wasn't her. I don't think that fits her. Okay, so Kusai has come to the conclusion that for the first character, we have the letter A here. For letter C, describes how she got advice from other people, mentions positive characteristics she's developed through her interests, and explains that the activity has a practical use in everyday life. So that's Kusai Smadhi's way of tackling this, okay? You can mark those down into your notes. Now we're going to take another look and follow it's Mr. Stevens' method, which my way is to get an impression about each character and then go and answer the questions. So let's go ahead and read through each character. Moving on from letter A, we'll go through the next three together. So this is a hybrid of Kusai Smadhi and Stevens' method. Patricia, when I was 5, my parents enrolled me in gymnastics program. I remember being really nervous before class, but my cousin decided to start with me, and that gave me confidence. I began by learning the basics like how to walk across the balance beam and how to do forward rolls for the floor exercise. After 2 years, I was good enough to join the team, and I had classes with the older, more advanced gymnasts. They were good role models, as I could see how hard they worked. Soon I was competing nationally, even winning some individual medals. As competitions got harder, I had to learn new skills, including something called a back handspring. I had difficulty getting it right, although I practiced a lot. Then I fell and damaged my shoulder, so I didn't enter anything for a year. I considered quitting, but actually having a break for that year was good. And I decided to continue, which I know was the right move. I'm so happy I carried on. Okay, so Patricia, she joined the gymnastics program. I'm just thinking through. She was nervous at first, but then her cousin started with her. And she had to practice a lot. She learned new moves. And then she's actually ended up with more advanced students. I remember that part. She won a few medals. She included building her skills. She had an injury, something, was it her shoulder? She had to take a year off. She thought about quitting, but then she decided to continue. She was happy about that. Okay, so that's the way that I process in my mind. What did I just read? What's kind of the impression I have of Patricia? I kind of think through some of the details. Then I move on to Danny. At this moment, Kusai Smadhi, he would start answering the questions. But for me, my preference is to now read about the next character. Danny, when I was about 11, I had no idea what sports I wanted to do. No idea. My sister did cross-country running at school and didn't like it because she always came last. But I decided to have a go. So I joined the school cross-country running club. Running in the heat was really hard, but I kept going and got picked for the team. Yes. This took a lot of commitment as I had to get up very early to go on training runs. Strange as may seem though, I've always liked early mornings, like Mr. Steven. I remember my first competition, I was anxious about finishing in last place. Oof, she was only concerned about last place, he or she. Once the race started, I felt better and managed to stay in 8th place almost the whole time. And I was able to move up to finish in 6th place. After that, I was determined to keep improving. And even when I'm not training for a particular event, I still go running. Okay, so Danny is already in my mind because I'm also a runner and my life is very similar to this. So the interesting thing about Danny, he or she was not interested in getting first place. They were just focused on not finishing last. So that's kind of funny to me. That sticks out in my mind. Okay. Please also notice Danny in English can be a female name or a male name. So you want to make sure that you don't just make assumptions unless it's written in here. Make sure that you don't answer incorrectly based off of something like she and letter C. If you thought that Danny is only for a man's name. So just keep that in mind. You don't want that to ruin your answers. All right, next we have Eleanor. Parkour, also known as free running, is my favorite activity. It's the art of going over, under, and around objects and obstacles as fast as possible for fun. That means leaping from rail to rail, climbing buildings, jumping over fences, and much more. Some people are worried that it's dangerous or only for those who are extremely athletic. That would be me. I think that it's so hard to do parkour. Anyways, but when I do parkour, I practice each part of a jump, checking each landing point for safety before doing it for real. Anyone can do it, and everyone progresses at a different rate and gets to different levels. Over time, it becomes easier and much more fun. A lot of people will also include some gymnastics, mixing in flips and flashing moves. Flashing means like spectacular, special move. This makes it really fun to watch. There are loads of videos online of people doing parkour in incredible places. In parkour, the world is my playground. Okay, so then we would go down and we'd start answering these questions. All right. So we had these ideas from Kusai Smadi already. Kusai, help me answer some of these questions. What do you
Yeah,
think?
sure. So for the first one, it gives a reason for not participating in competitions. So in my mind, the only probably the only two that mentioned competition were Danny and Patricia. Yeah, Patricia, I think her name was. And yeah, so but Patricia broke her shoulder, or she was nervous about something. I don't really remember, but I think it probably is Patricia more than Danny, because yeah, she mentioned competition way more than Danny did.
Okay, and I had Patricia too. So when I was 5, my parents enrolled. I remember being really nervous for the cousin decided to start with me. That gave me confidence. That,
Yeah, she
then,
mentioned confidence too.
well, I began learning basics after 2 years. I was good enough to join the team. I had close older. On how soon I was competing actually. I learned skills and invested. I had difficulty getting it right though, although I pressed a lot. I felt damaged, so I didn't enter anything for a year. I considered quitting. Actually, having a break for that year was good. I decided to continue.
So yeah, that's a reason for not entering a competition. She basically like disbanded the whole thing.
Yeah. So because of her shoulder, I would say absolutely. Okay, so that's letter B. I would argue that. Letter B explains that people can combine skills from another sport in the activity. That's clearly D. I remember you can bring in gymnastics into parkour. So this
Yeah.
sentence here clearly answers that for Eleanor and the parkour. Over time, it becomes easier and much more fun. A lot of people will also include some gymnastics. Clear answer, so fast, awesome. Oops. Yeah.
By the way, I noticed something. Eleanor kind of sounds like, I don't know. This just popped into my head, but the name sounds familiar. Like he's somewhat of a royal French family. I don't know, something in the French Revolution.
All
I
I
don't
know
know.
is that Eleanor is a women's name from our grandparents' generation in the United States. So I
Yeah, I know.
Eleanor
There's like
Roosevelt, who was the first lady. She was the president's wife back when. All right, letter D. And then letter C, I would agree. Letter D down here explains that she wasn't putting off doing an activity by someone else's bad experience. Okay, so this person is a she, explains that she wasn't put off doing an activity by someone else's bad experience. So in my mind, I thought of C, Danny. Um, and the reason is because of that, her sister, right? Didn't her sister, something happen? My sister did cross country running at school and didn't like it because she always came last. Okay, but she still decided to try it. So that's the sentence. Okay, she's talking about her sister having a bad experience, but in the end, it didn't stop her from going for it. So we're just going to do a couple more to give you kind of the feel for this, and then we're going to come back and check our answers. So this is C, I think. And then E, I agree, is A. Okay. Mentions positive characteristics she's developed through her interests. I agree that that was the first character. Now we have explains what she learned from watching other people. Wasn't that B, the second character? Letter
Yeah,
F.
Patricia.
She watched the other skaters, right?
Yeah,
So let's look up and find that sentence. The skater. No, it was the gymnastics.
yeah, the gymnastics one. She said,
So I was thinking maybe it was skateboarding for Tanya, the first one. But as I'm going through and scanning through, it doesn't make sense. No.
no, here it's in B. Patricia says they were good role models, but as I watched them, yeah,
So
says
I scanned through letter A because I had the intuition that maybe it was Tanya. I remembered her learning like tricks maybe from someone else, from older kids. But then
yeah,
that Patricia is the next best candidate. Actually, she's the best candidate because when I scan through, as Kusai mentioned, it says they were good role models as I could see how hard they worked. Soon I was competing nationally. So she went on. So, okay, let's go back and we check this. Explains what she learned from watching other people. Okay, there's more information there, but that's clearly B. Would you agree, Kusai?
yeah. I think it would. Yeah, I think it's definitely B.
You think
For
that's
sure.
the best answer? Me too.
Yeah.
All right. And G, I got the third character, C, mentions having a lack of confidence before a competition. Okay, there's a
Oh
sentence
yeah.
correlated with that. Let's go back and look for that. Let's see, nervous before. Once it starts, I felt better. So I remember my first competition, I was anxious about finishing
Yeah.
last. Once the race started, I felt better and managed to stay in 8th place the whole time. After that, I was determined to keep improving. So that's C. And then we come back to the last two. It says how people have to prepare well to avoid accidents. What do you think, Kusai?
So says how people have to prepare well to avoid accidents.
Yeah, who comes to mind?
I think the one who broke her shoulder probably, or no. I think it would be the last one because he said I have to check for safety the landing spots and the other stuff mentioned for safety.
When I took this before, I said D as well in the end because I had the same exact process that you had. Because I thought, is it the one who broke her shoulder? And I remembered, oh no, it's Eleanor.
Yeah,
Okay, is clearly the answer for says how people have to prepare well to avoid accidents. Let's find the sentence to make sure that we're 100%. Leaving rail to rail, some people are worried it's dangerous. But when I do parkour, I practice each part of the jump, checking landing for states before it's real. Anyone can do it. Okay, so right there in the meat of the paragraph in the center, we find that D is the best answer. And then J mentions that sharing a difficult experience was helpful.
well, that would be Patricia because she said that even though she broke her shoulder, she came back stronger. So, and she was proud that she did it.
And that was B, right?
Yeah, that was B, Patricia.
Okay, so here we have our answers. B, D, A, C, A, B, C, A, D, B. And please note that each one, we went back, Kusai and I, we went back to double check. Where's that exact sentence inside of the paragraph that confirms 100% Methylene Patricia is this description? So there's always a sentence that makes it very clear to make sure that you have the right answer. So we would simply process through that. Now Kusai might do another round to just double check his answer and his answers, and then he would write them in formally. At this point, though, we're going to open up the answer key, and let's check our answers. So we've kind of walked through how to do this. All right, and you can see I added the one because for some reason they didn't publish the real answer for J. That's okay. So we have B, D, A, C, A, B, C, A, D, and then B. So these are the correct answers. At first, for some reason, I think it was letter B. I wasn't sure about that. and I double checked at the end and I changed my answer to D. And that's how I ended up getting 100%. So just make sure that you do check your answers. Make sure that before you leave this section, that you check your answers with the content above, making sure that there's an exact sentence inside of the character description that correlates with your answers, okay? At this point, I would ask you guys, do you have any questions? Kusai, do you have any questions about this section or any helpful advice you'd like to share with your colleagues?
No, thank you. I'm 100% fine. Thank you.
Okay, great. So just remember that we always want to take a deep breath. When we have something new, it's good to practice it, give it a shot. And so I want all of you guys to be sure and do this exercise before your exam. Okay, your exams are next week. Let's go ahead and spend some time with exercise 2. It is the only new aspect to your writing exam. It's the only change to your exams for English. But I want to make sure, especially if you weren't here in 8th grade, this is going to be totally new for you. So go ahead and practice this exercise. Maybe you don't write the answers on the paper because maybe you want to do it one day and then wait 3 days and then try it again just for that practice. But that summarizes how to approach exercise 2 on the writing exam 2020. We expect that exercise 2 will be in this format with 4 characters and answering the right description for each character as a total of 10 points. Again, for me, I think this is much easier for you. It's less ambiguous. It's less detailed. Either you have the correct answer or you don't have the correct answer. The old way was sometimes confusing. Do I delete this one? Do I circle this one? If I write the address, do I need to include the pound sign? So this approach, I hope, helps you. Listening to Kusai's approach and listening to my approach, and then you deciding what style you want to accomplish exercise 2 according to your personality. I'm confident in each one of you. Love you all dearly. And let's give a round of applause for Kusai. Thank you for your support and help. And I'm thankful to be with you. Love you guys. Feel free to email me at stephendvale@gmail.com with any questions. Thank you.